All right, let's go back to Villa. We define success for Ten Hag to salvage this season for United. Is Emery already playing with house money?
No, I mean, I think
if you're Suarez and the other guy, what do you want from? Well, what constitutes success this season?
Well, listen, I think there needs to be a massive amount of context here. What happened against United was an anomaly. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's the first time, as you said earlier, where Villa have lost a game when they were leading. It's the first time in the season where they haven't won after 2 games, right? But when you look overall at the context right now, to be third in the Premier League after Boxing Day, right? The fact that only Manchester City has accumulated more points in 2023, we've already seen great things. Now, I think even when we were like talking about, 2 more points and they're top of the table, a successful season to me is European competition. If we get top 4, if Aston Villa gets top 4 at the end of this season, that's a tremendous achievement, but it's very, very doable. And I go back to this. It's the same argument if you say, Liverpool without Salah, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Arsenal without Saka, Odegaard. When you don't have Bouba Kamara, Pau Torres, Yuri Tillemans, then there's a little bit of an issue. Now, when those players come back, maybe add another player in
I can
January.
only deal with this so much. I get the Pau Torres and Kamara are important
It's a
players.
factor, Gab.
Okay, but I'm sorry. Then you compare them to Liverpool without Mohamed Salah.
In terms of importance to their own team.
Okay, no. I'm sorry. I'm not going to let this slip, right?
No, me neither.
No, who's more important? Okay, so no, because all season long, right? I hear about Douglas Luiz this, Douglas Luiz that. Right?
Who, by the way, had a terrible
game. Who had a bad game?
United.
Okay, fine. But who's more important? Who's more important?
This is a relative question.
No. Okay, but no. To Aston Villa. Who's more important? Just even among the midfielders. I would have thought, as a non-Aston Villa fan, I would have thought that Douglas Luiz and John McGinn are more important to Aston Villa's midfield than Bouba Kamara. No. Now Bouba Kamara is more important than those guys too. Just check.
Listen,
is he more important than Ollie Watkins too?
Bouba Kamara, the reason, I'll explain why. A massive...
listen.
No,
I am listening.
For once, listen.
I'm all ears.
A massive, like if you look at Unai Emery's to-do list when it comes to what they want to do in a game, right? One of the number one priorities is to make sure that the double pivot is extremely solidified, allowing players like McGinn and Douglas Luiz to do their thing, allowing Ollie Watkins to become more threatening going forward. The only way that happens, right, is if you have a very strong, pass-friendly, protective in front of the back line kind of player, and that's Bouba Kamara. You remove that player, and then things can happen, which is what happened against United. I'm not saying it's the reason why they lost. I'm saying that when you remove Bouba Kamara out of that game, 3 suspension, and it's his fault because it was his silly decision to get that red card. But missing him for 3 games straight is a massive factor. He's very important for Aston Villa.
And you move McGinn. McGinn has to come centrally.
So
and
he has to be more defensive. Yes.
Exactly. It's not the same.
It's a big one.
My other question, just more of as a big fan of Diaby and a big fan of Zaniolo, obviously. Why does he only send them on? Was it like 5 or 6 minutes to go?
Well, Diaby started the season very well.
No. But I'm just talking because
Holland scores 81st.
The most likely players to get substituted in most games in modern football are wing backs and wingers, right? Because for obvious reasons, because they're sprinting all the time and whatever, right? I don't understand. You've got 2 guys. You know my thoughts on Diaby. I think he's exceptional, right? Yeah. And look, it's not a knock on Bailey, and Bailey's maybe faster. But then again, I also wonder if Bailey's sprints at the end of the game might not be as quick as Diaby's. Diaby certainly has a lot more quality than Bailey, in my view. Zaniolo's more quality than both of them, but he's got other issues, but whatever. But he's a big boy. He can win headers. He nearly won a header. Scored the other day, right? Anybody want to knock him for leaving it so late? Even like to get fresh legs on the pitch, you have 5 substitutes available to you. And
the problem with... I agree. I think it was too late of a late decision because Leon Bailey was not doing that much. I think Diaby right now, unfortunately, specifically in December, is going through a little bit of a rough patch. But I do
Is that because he's not Paris born and bred?
No, he is.
He is, and he's letting them down. Okay.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, given the narrative of that game and how United were pushing, it was just like he was entering a winless situation. But he hasn't been playing well in the last few games.
But with Villa, we said from the beginning, and again, it's not a criticism or anything, but if they drop a little bit the level, we've said City, Liverpool, Arsenal they're going to get better. They're not at their best. Villa are at their best. But if they drop that level a little bit, just a little bit, or if there's a player missing, a couple of players missing, then I think that's where they become very vulnerable. And this is, for me, the difficulty for them, because to go through the whole of the second half of the season as good as they were in the first half is going to be tricky. There will be European competition, there will be AFCON, there will be all of that, and I just think that it will be difficult, because as soon as they drop it a little bit, then I think they will be in a bit
This
of
is the
trouble.
real test, the one after
right.
December.
I will leave you all with his thoughts about how football has changed and the kind of season that we're having, that we're talking about the disappointment of Aston Villa needing to keep their level after they lost 3-2 at Old Trafford to Manchester United and are, third in the table.
I'll take
It's
it.
still very good.
Hats off to Unai Emery. That's all I can say. Like, you know my views on him.
But we can
My
be
issues with
demanding
them, but-
still.
What?
Can be demanding when they've been so good so far this season.
39 points.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's interesting. One last thing. You said sort of the baseline of what constitutes success. And I'm assuming you share my view that it's not just about where you finish in the table, like 6th versus 3rd versus 8th or whatever, but you look for forward progress. But you said European football. If Villa finish 6th or 7th, still get European football, and show progress to the point that they can hang on to their top players, that's success for everyone.
you
yeah?
take
The
that.
Europa League, a good run in the Cup, I think that's a successful season. Champions League football would be even ahead of schedule, but it would be remarkable. But Europa League football would be great. Yeah.
All right, so I asked him about that, and I'll ask you. What does Eric Ten Hag need to do? Let's say your pal Jean-Claude Blanc calls you over
Yeah.
and says, Jules, I need to decide. I need to have a target
Yeah.
for Eric Ten Hag between now and the season for me to keep him. What does he need to do?
So he needs a top 5 finish. I'm sorry, United can't finish below 5
Yeah?
in the league, for sure. And then really the only thing they have left is the FA Cup after that, because as we said, there's no European competition. That was a big disappointment in itself. I don't know if they can win the FA Cup, but certainly winning the FA Cup and finishing 5th, for example, I think would be okay-ish, just about, after finishing 3rd and winning the League Cup. If you win the FA Cup and finish 5th, I think it would just be acceptable, just about.
Can't believe all the Wout Weghorst hate out there.